Good morning. Happy day after the election day. Yes, we made it. Congratulations, America. You have survived the storm before the calm. You might be looking at the title of today's show going, whoa. Did you just try to reverse those words to make it clever? What's the bigger point here? And, you know, I think I had a pretty good time yesterday. Yesterday's show was titled Watching from a Distance. And I think that maintaining that appropriate emotional relationship to government towards the elections is absolutely critical at a time like this when, you know, we've covered these stories about all the increased stress and anxiety, 55% of Americans saying that the election day is going to be the most stressful ever for them, whatever qualifications they put. But obviously, there is an unhealthy emotional attachment to government in the United States in what is historically the most disturbing perversion of what it's supposed to be, mean to be American. So anyway, we got a lot of news to cover today. Obviously, if you haven't seen the results of the election yet, we have Biden in the lead, but yet to confirm victory with 238 electoral votes to Trump's 213. And I called it yesterday because I was actually invited as a guest on a live show. Shout out to Suzanne Etz for making that happen. Thank you very much. Or else, Silence Maj is on screen already with a comment. Hey, Adam, thanks for streaming with us last night. Brad, yes, Brad was with us on that live stream. It was a lot of fun. And what I was able to call by 10 p.m. Arizona time was that you're not going to have a decisive victory. It's going to be close enough for Trump to fight it legally, and we're not going to know really for sure who our next president is for quite a while, at least a few days. So if it's past your bedtime, as Samuel Jackson would say, go the fuck to sleep, or what is it? Go the fuck to bed. Yeah. There were a lot of people. We've seen the typical, political nerd sphere, really embroiled and engaged, processing everything about the election. And I hate to say it, we are going to spend a decent chunk of today's show doing that as well. And just little personal note background on myself, since I think most people don't know this about me, that I have most of a master's degree in political management. And sort of before I shied away from politics as an undergrad towards psychology, and there's a lot with my Iraq experience tied up in this, I was going to be a political science major, at one of the best political science undergrad programs in the country at Claremont McKenna College. And if they offered a minor, I'd still qualify for the minor. But then went to grad school, George Washington University, when I got out of the Marine Corps, and my mom still wants me to go and do my last trimester at the graduate program at George Washington, so I can have a master's degree. Check, as if I care about having that credential. And if it wasn't for my experience with the Iraq Veterans Against the War, I would have been I would have gone and been a political hack. I would have been an operative. To me, that was, if I wasn't sort of pulled by that into being a public figure, my point is, I am really tempted. Like, this is my language, or was for a significant part of my life, of this kind of meaningless minutia of politics. And it's really tempting to get sucked in. And I want to remind you of the point of my opening monologue yesterday, which was that this is an incredibly inefficient, ineffective way to make decisions, and the cost to humanity is ridiculous. If you just think about even just the money that was spent on negative attack ads, if we use that to solve real problems facing humanity, how much better off would we be? If we just the time, the mental energy, the emotional engagement on who should our next dear leader be, if we spent that instead on answering serious questions, well, eventually we'd all be libertarian, right? Because that's how we get to be libertarian, by stepping away from that. But today we're going to get into it. We have a contest today. Before I ramble any further, because I've got a big pile of, we might get to some real news, but we're going to get all of the election stuff out of the way so that hopefully in the next however long it takes for this thing to be settled, be it a day, it could be we could know by the end of today. There could be enough states that are called decisively to clinch it for Biden, essentially, at this point. And then we get to see if Trump stands a chance of some kind of legal challenge. But yeah, we'll get into all of that. And hopefully from now on, Adam versus the Man will be back to being mostly focused on real news and things that matter. And I am really I'm already, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm already in a better mood. I've described coronaphobia as this dark cloud. All right, similarly, the election is a dark cloud. The contest today, because we do have, despite the general absence in the conversation of Dr. Jo Jorgensen, our Libertarian nominee, and we're definitely going to get to all the good news in her race. The biggest good news, even if there's a backslide from Gary's numbers in 2016, and it does look disappointing. I mean, that is the big bad news for the day as a libertarian. Her vote per dollar ratio was actually a lot higher than hers, and this was pointed out to me by my former campaign manager, Elijah Gitzarelli. Big shout out to him. It's been hopefully now that campaign season is over, he hopefully he can be a little more engaged with Adam versus the Man. But the contest today, either by calling in or by commenting wherever you may be watching this live. And here's your reminder: we are fighting censorship. We have to be active and engaged to overcome the hurdles that are placed in front of us by the mainstream media, by social media, by everybody who wants to suppress any message that legitimately challenges the current power structure. And this is why CJ, our producer from South Dakota, we're going to get on stage here in just a bit for producers' notes and news from South Dakota. But this is why he likes to call me the most censored man on the internet, because he's a good hype man like that. But Elijah Gitzarelli pointed out that we got 50% better value in terms of votes per dollar with Jo Jorgensen and Gary Johnson. And that's kind of an interesting, really cool analysis. So we've got good news on the drug war front. Very excited to be sharing with you that today. Recreational passing in Arizona, a few other states, with Oregon decriminalizing all hard drugs. But I want today's contest to win membership in the Adam versus the Man Producers Club is to answer the question: what is the best good news to come out of this election so far, and why? And I could say, hey, we had a candidate who was principled with Jo Jorgensen, and every dollar that we invested resulted in a good outcome, was a positive use of libertarian resources to reach people with a principled message. You could say that we had a number of candidates for the Libertarian Party, like our very own debate manager, Mercedes Damrotowski, with her race in Nebraska, almost hitting 25%, but yeah, clearing 20%. That's a big check box, a big box checked. That's a major accomplishment, even when you are running in a two-way race, a libertarian versus an old party incumbent. To clear 20% it's beautiful to see. It really is a significant accomplishment. So congratulations to Mercedes Damrotowski, also to Toya Johnson, who I believe got about 23% in her race. If there were any others, please put them in the comments. Let me know. Let's share all of these positive libertarian benchmarks that we achieved this election cycle. But you can win membership in the Producers Club by answering that question, either by calling in or by commenting. And I don't know, a lot of you are shy or don't want to engage like that. But you can call in with the link. It's in the comments. Wherever you're watching this, comment. Jim and CJ are getting that out right now as I speak, because I just said that. They're getting it out. So if you want to get in the queue to call in today and try to win membership in the Producers Club, or just let me know what you think. And there are a few things that I get to say I told you so about, as usual. I feel, I'm getting a little older and wiser, and but I'm not wise enough to not gloat about it every now and then. And CJ gloats about it. He's a good hype man, even more. And he points out things I was right about that I don't even remember that I was right about sometimes. So maybe he'll have some of those about the election today. But with that being said, quick promos to get out of the way. What is the Producers Club that you would be winning membership in? Well, you can also buy your way in and find out more about it by going to AdamVersusTheMan.com, finding the Patreon link to patreon.com/Adam versus the Man. And you can give us money any way you want. You can email me if you want to figure it out. But the best way, go to that link and give us $10 a month, because you get to be in on this amazing behind the scenes conversation. And you get the whole core team. Marcus, our guest booker, co-host, comment, Jim Freedom, and CJ, our producer, executive producer, are in that conversation 24/7. I treat it like any other text message conversation I'm involved in. And it really is a great way that we have a volunteer editorial team as well functioning, helping develop content that you see every day on the show. A lot of the links, we're at about half, I think, about half the links that we use for the show come out of the Producers Club. The other half are from, my random social media connections and Drudge Report. I check that still. By the way, tomorrow we might come back to a story about the rising irrelevance of the Drudge Report, but it still functions as a big window into the mainstream media. Oh, so in the Producers Club right now, Myra hit 25% in her Iowa race. So to Myra Mateka, congratulations. There you go. Awesome. Thank you so much. And we also had someone in our Producers Club sharing a sunrise. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. As he said yesterday, this is what he's going to be posting today. Yes, the sun has risen again, regardless of what is going on with government. So without further ado, let's get comment Jim Freedom on stage here and check in with Jim and the audience here. Jim, how you doing this morning, brother?
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going great. It's going. Can't you tell? Like I'm the conversation. It's like finally fresh air. And you know what? To finish my point a little bit from earlier, describing Corona phobia as this dark cloud over humanity. Similarly, the election is like that, at least a dark cloud over the human conversation or the American conversation. And I feel a major chunk of that cloud has lifted, and it can be measured with at least the reminders to vote not being there anymore. You don't have to hear vote, don't forget to vote, don't forget to. You don't have to hear this is the most important election of our lifetimes anymore this year. So I feel better
For a couple more years till it happens again. I think I just want to go on record as saying my official opinion. The numbers that you're seeing, like you were saying, you're disappointed for Joe Jorgensen's low numbers at this time, even though everything's not counted yet officially.
right.
My official opinion about those is that those numbers are literally made up.
Yeah, no, I
Literally
made
put
on
on the
live
screen to show
night.
you this is what we want you to think.
Yeah.
As I was watching it last night, it's
That's the point.
impossible the way they run it all night long. In every single state, they show a few counties that have a few big swings. Oh, this is a Trump county or this is a Biden county, but the official count is always 51% to 49%. Kiss my ass. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's fake.
Thank you for that.
And they're going to keep the libertarian where they're at. In reality, libertarians are pushing like 8 to 10%, in my opinion. There's been too many people and there's too many swells online of people declaring, yes, I voted Joe Jorgensen. I mean, it's more than they want people to realize, I think. That's my opinion.
Now, I'm with you 100%. And but I have to question one thing there. And obviously, well, last night I said a few things about that specifically. One, don't stay up tonight waiting to get a good number on the Jorgensen results. That's not going to happen. They're not, and even if they did get that, too, it wouldn't be a true number. Whatever number they finally give us, we know is going to be a deliberate undercount. Whatever number ever comes out officially about Joe Jorgensen, and the same as has generally been true about libertarian candidates, and essentially in any democracy, modern bureaucratic government with any kind of voting system, anything like this one, any insurgent party is going to be undercounted, by the people who count the votes, just by not having the resources even to advocate for the legal wrangling to make sure all the votes are counted properly. So that being said, the question is how much, and I think you said 8 to 10%. And I'm even more optimistic than that when it comes to who is truly libertarian. But in terms of the actual vote count, I'm not that optimistic. And I think we do have to recognize that in the conversation, we did not have a breakthrough year for libertarians that was being suppressed. The question is not, did Joe Jorgensen really win the election and it all got stolen from us? No, it's, how much progress did we make, right? That's the question we're asking for the Libertarian Party. And I still think we made incredible progress. I think the movement has, I'm not shaken in my faith in the fundamental, positive, unstoppable momentum of the libertarian movement. Then looking at this question of how much ground did we actually gain with Jorgensen this year, I do think we missed a bit of an opportunity. I don't think she got the traction that we would have hoped. In the conversation, we did not have a breakthrough year. We had a year of incremental progress. And I would congratulate Joe for that and thank her for her service to the movement and for staying on a principled message the entire time. And those are things that I would want to celebrate. But I don't even know, what are they telling us? What are you seeing, Jim, for the total number for percentage estimate for Jorgensen right now? Being
Well,
reported anywhere.
I haven't even looked because, as I said, it's fake to me anyways. Every time you see it on the news, when I walk by the TV, they're not even showing the Libertarians. So I would have to Google it, and I don't want to Google it and be lied to and feel like, oh, that's a lie
No, no,
anyway.
no.
So
You are going to be lied to, Jim. You
right,
should
so I
know
don't
that.
even
Like, you know,
Google it. I don't listen to them. I just
but
go with my feeling about it, and I
but
talk to people.
there is legitimate polling that happens. There are legitimately independent exit polls. Excuse me. And I just want to point this out. It's tempting as a libertarian to say what you just said. But I would remind you that there's a reason they don't let people think whatever they want and then just steal the election. They do genuinely get a critical mass of the population to go along. And because of the accountability measure that exit polls and polling in general represents, as flawed as it is, they can only cheat so much, right? You know, in this election, if they came out and said, oh, Trump won in a landslide with 90% of the popular vote, we'd all be like, nah, fuck that. Right? So your estimate of a true turnout of 8 to 10% and significant progress for Jo Jorgensen at this point is not unrealistic. I wouldn't say you're being if you said that Joe really got more than 10%, I'd say that's a fantasy, right? But could she have genuinely done as well as 8 to 10%? Yeah, possibly. I think it's going to be significantly lower than that. But yeah, let's take stock of the positive progress that we made this year. So does anybody have any numbers? Jim, are you seeing anything in the comments?
Well, like I said, I mean, I just did a quick Google search, and the top numbers that are showing us is saying 1.1%, 1.5 million votes for Jorgensen.
Yeah,
like
that's hard to believe that the duopoly successfully sucked away 2% from Gary's vote total in 16 because the Trump
at the
Biden
end, by the time they
difference is too
announce
important.
everything and all the votes are counted, they'll say, "Oh, she did about the same as libertarians always do." They might give her 3%, or maybe they're trying to insult us and they'll tell us 2%. You know, who knows what they'll tell us, but we know in reality there's more of us than they're telling us, and hopefully the outcome of this election causes more people on whatever side they're on currently to say, "Holy crap, let's, you know, try the only option that's not ridiculous anymore." CJ really wants his comment to be put up.
All right,
Says,
go ahead.
if voting mattered, it would be illegal. Every race in every state is rigged to believe otherwise. It is a form of Stockholm syndrome, government being your abuser. Wake up. No election is legitimate.
All right. Well, we're definitely going to let CJ get on, and we're going to go to producers' notes and let CJ get into all of that on the air here in his own voice. But I do want to, I want to make sure that we cover, the situation with Jorgensen and the vote count right now. And, that's honestly one thing I really just, I did see that 1.1 and was like, wait a second. So, I've got New York Times pulled up here, nytimes.com. And one of the reasons, someone asked me, like, how are you following the election? And when I did the appearance on the broadcast for Suzanne last night, I had 5 different websites pulled up, and I was refreshing all of them, and was watching. We'll get to Zero Tech and New York Times. Someone asked me, like, and this is how I watched the 2016 election, was sitting around the campfire here in Gardenia, just refreshing the New York Times every 30 minutes or so, and getting to watch their infamous needle, with the odds swing from radically Clinton to solidly Trump. And, with right now, the New York Times says presidential race on razor's edge with key states still counting. And it was interesting to watch live the media bias last night in terms of who was calling states when. And I don't want to read too much into any specifics because I think there are different motivations to manipulate votes based on timing and swing states and when polls close by the major players in the mainstream media, who I do think generally were either certainly there was a significant covert push to support Biden by the liberal mainstream media. I know that's a very imprecise analysis, but I did see some of that happening live last night I was watching 538.com and Drudge Report, New York Times, and Zero Hedge, and then some of the mainstream media networks that were linked from drudgereport.com. And it was some of them had already called it for Biden. It was really interesting. And Trump tried to call it for himself and said, we're going to win and we're going to tell the Supreme Court to order them to stop counting votes where we're ahead. And it's like, well, I think, we'll get into all this, but just one thing I want to point out about Trump when he said Democrats are trying to steal the election. I think that was one of the examples of Trump's messaging genius, because it's something that if you take it as an excuse to say that Trump's a liar, you can say there's no evidence that anybody's stealing the election or trying to steal the election. And therefore, Twitter labeled it, as like warning false. And all the major networks tried to call Trump wrong for that. Or like when Trump said, I won. Well, you could say he thinks he won. Is it a lie? It's close enough still that he can say that. And this, I hate to even, feel like I'm getting sucked into this conversation because I'm too deep in it. So Jim, give me some more comments with good news here.
Okay. Well.
Oh, sorry. Just to finish the thought about when Trump says steal, Democrats are trying to steal the election. Well, if you want to interpret that as true, it's totally true. If you say yes, steal can mean lots of different things. Both parties both old parties are constantly trying to steal elections. It's nothing new. But Trump knows that that's going to trigger leftists and saying he's a liar, and then it plays in his favor. But it wasn't enough for him to get a decisive victory last night, certainly. So, how much genius? Who knows?
Well, Silenced Maj agrees with me, says, yeah, there's no way the numbers are that low, referring to the Jorgensen numbers. He says, we have 10 times as many volunteers as the Johnson's campaign.
Really?
That's what he's
saying. Well, I see. I haven't been following it close enough to do because there are polls out there that have had Jorgensen in that range. But I haven't done a review of all the polls. So again, the contest today, what is the best good news to come out of the election so far and why? You could do that in one sentence in a comment and win membership in the Producers Club. So what else do we have for comments, Jim?
1054 chimes in. Libertarians have to be shown as a minor group. They can't have us looking as any kind of growing trend.
Yep.
And Loki 209 says, if libertarians didn't win, them lost. Another true statement.
Yep.
Yeah. Jordan Lott asks a general question from Facebook. What did you think of Jorgensen and her performance? I think we kind of just covered that.
Yeah.
For this question.
I mean, I would say I was very, very grateful, and it was great to see that we had a candidate who was consistently principled, who anytime you supported her, you knew that you were, helping get the actual message out, not a watered down or whitewashed, politicized, socially liberal, fiscally conservative nonsense version of it. But I was generally disappointed that there wasn't more traction or more breakthrough or creativity. But overall, I was very happy. I'm not going to get too inside baseball, picking apart the organization, because they're going to be infiltrators, and I seen what Joe did. I was very happy with that, and I think the progress that we made this year. Again, I don't think the popular vote, we're going to have a good analysis on it for quite a while, and it's not what matters, but I do think we made major progress as a movement and as a party this year.
For sure. Absolutely. You got some news to cover?
Well, let's get CJ on next. CJ.
What up, sir? Good morning to you, CJ. Good afternoon where you're from, I think, right? Oh, no, it's only 11:30 there.
Yeah, the government mandated time travel put you guys where we still have mornings together. Adam, it's really hard as the executive producer of this show, that to be enthusiastic about even the day after the most rigged election in our lifetime.
Yes.
So, at the end of the day, we'll go through all the statist propaganda, and you can digest it and spit it out to the little birds in their little nests and allow them to, figure this out for themselves. But I meant it when I said it. There's no legitimate elections in the United States of America. It's all rigged for show, for ratings. There's many evidence. There's evidence for days of this. If you're a common sense, out of the box thinker, we are never going to get the mentally handicapped duopoly voters to acknowledge that they are in a Stockholm syndrome like trance when it comes to statism and how our government actually operates. I will say I'm proud of all the libertarians that I met along the way. I did get 10% in my own race. Seems kind of weird. My opponent never debated me. Had little to no name recognition, 100 likes on Facebook, and somehow pulls out 9,000 votes out of 10,000. I get 1,000 votes out of 10,000, and if I would have if had a conversation with my opponent, I could have used that for political ads to show the difference between me and him politically and philosophically, ideologically, and where we would differ on creating laws and at the end of the day, or in my case, wanting to abolish government through my position. But anyways, the thing is that to me, regardless of what the outcome is, it's been predetermined by people that have the financial interest in this. And so to lose sight of that at any point in either this show or for anybody else for that matter, we want to make sure that we don't get caught up in promoting statism accidentally by giving credibility to what we know to be false, fake, and basically what I said, the most rigged election of our lifetime. Whether or not we know the result in the next 2 weeks, you're right. It might come down to a week or two, and but ultimately one side will concede and or not, and we'll go to civil war. And we can always remember, ladies and gentlemen, my final producer note: you had the opportunity to support and vote for Adam Kokesh for your candidate in 2020, who wanted to abolish all of this shit show and give us all our freedom and independence. And so again, the choice is always yours, but in this case, the statist mental health disorder was just too strong for America. And I don't know, but I would like to segue that into, if you're feeling stressed out about this election, just grab yourself a cigar from Cigar Federation.
Oh, thank you for reminding us.
And use the promo code Adam10 to get 10% off your order. They do have the JSK Nugs. You just type in Nugs. Don't misspell it like I did. And you can get yourself some CBD infused cigars that you can enjoy during Cigars and Sunsets. So also,
Yes.
while
We're
you're
bringing that back Friday for sure.
while you're picking up a cigar, don't forget to go over to AdamVersusTheMan.com and check out our shop. There is a Producers Club promo code you can use to get free shipping and 15% off for joining the Producers Club at Patreon. And so we would appreciate your support by going to there. And other than that, Adam, I'm glad I'm no longer a political candidate. I'm glad
You sure about that? Hold on, don't go off screen yet. Don't go anywhere. CJ, I want to keep you on for at least 3 things that you brought up there. First of all, to get my personal stuff out of the way, thank you for blowing smoke up my butt about the Kokesh for President campaign. And I am still, I'm feeling a lot of love from people behind the scenes right now going, man, 2020 was the year we should have nominated someone who would really get people's attention with a serious alternative like we were proposing with localization. And I'm not gonna gloat about that anymore, but I just will remind everyone that I am still on track and planning to run again for the Libertarian Party nomination for president in 2024. I'm exploring a congressional race here in Arizona for U.S. Congress in 2022. And on that note, I want to say for CJ, I hope you keep running. Where are you taking your momentum as a candidate?
So I ran for governor in 2018. And I had a hell of an experience then. I ran for state senate this time. I would probably see myself more in the next 2 years focusing on the state party, my XCOM position as I'm the East River Regional Coordinator for my executive committee for the Libertarian Party of South Dakota. So I'll probably take the next 2 years to focus on that. And then when 2024 rolls around, I guess 2022 would be. I'm hoping that we can recruit somebody to run for governor, maybe be a campaign manager for that person and help in that capacity. I know what it's like to be a candidate, and so therefore I think I could help somebody that would want to use the libertarian platform to speak out against the monopoly state here in Meth Dakota. And 2024 though. I don't know. I'm too far burnt out for that. So, but yeah,
thinking ahead.
Jorgensen got 3% of the vote here in South Dakota. Really disappointed that she showed up here. Biden didn't even make an appearance here and pulled out. It goes to show, man. People are. It's disappointing because, like I said, before the election, I was calling everybody retarded because I couldn't find a good word that was less offensive to people's eardrums, and then it finally dawned on me: they're mentally handicapped. They are in a form of Stockholm syndrome, and instead of treating them like a retard that you hate and loathe, no, they're mentally handicapped, and now you can love them appropriately and meet them where they're at. So I've learned a lot, especially from this show, from you, Adam, from Jim. And a lot of our Producers Club members, Mercedes, Matt, I mean, even Craig is throwing me some comments sometimes. But yeah, it's a learning experience, and I know you know what it's like having ran for president and lost. It's not easy to wake up the next day and go, well, I'm a loser. Now what? But I really honestly do believe, Adam, and we'll take it to my grave, that it's all rigged. So nobody's going to convince me otherwise. We can pretend it's not, but
I got a couple of things before you move on to any other points here. First of all, with this being the most rigged election of our lifetimes, one of the things that really surprised me in the coverage yesterday and even looking at it today is how underreported anything about Jo Jorgensen is whatsoever. I remember watching in 2012 and 16 and even 08 as a political enthusiast, seeing that and in some of those elections, like I think even in 16, you would see most of the coverage as Trump, Clinton, Johnson, Stein. They included the Libertarian and the Green, and they mentioned them like that. But I really am seeing her distinctly written out of the results
Right.
in a way where you go, this is
Well, we're gonna stick
a bit of an extra
Jorgensen.
media push.
Well, we're gonna stick Jorgensen on the C-rated. Your mic's muted, Jim. We're gonna stick Jorgensen on the C-rated, Fox News Business Channel. We're gonna stick him at the lowest rated shows on Fox News with some of the lowest rated hosts, and then say that, hey, at least we're fair and balanced, giving the libertarians some time. No mention. Let's put it to you this way: 2020 is the year that fake news on both sides was exposed, and there is no real mainstream journalism anymore. It is bought and paid for corporate media designed to keep you voting for the same people that make them money on ratings. So, I mean, imagine like this: if I was instead of being producer CJ, I was Adam Kokesh's and Jim Freedom's fight promoter. I have a vested interest in YouTube beating the shit out of each other and nobody else coming in and taking away my racket. So,
right.
That's kind of the way it is. The media protects the unconstitutional form of government, and the people eat it up, and they think their vote matters. They think, again, I vote on principle. I voted for Jorgensen and Cohen. They did a great job. I'm proud of my vote. I will be until the day I die, but there's a lot of learning to be done here, a reevaluation for 2024. And, there's a few things that fell through, I think mostly due to the pandemic, that the pandemic, thanks YouTube. The thing is that, we there was nothing for veterans for Jorgensen. There was no meeting them at the debate stage. We should have, in all honesty, Adam, we should have stormed the debate stage as a party. It shouldn't have been, well, this is where the debate's at, just Joe shows up with, 10 people. It should have been a storming event. It should have been, like you said, around the building, people willing to get arrested.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to wait until I see a more comprehensive analysis of Jorgensen's campaign organization and strategy before I make any comment on that. And I think we all need to, I think any such judgment before we see the full story of her campaign itself, before we can, say what worked and what didn't in their
Adam,
strategic.
how many corporations own the media? How many is it? 7?
Right.
6?
Yeah, something like that.
So
but
we're
hold
never
on,
going to get it.
CJ, I got to go back before I forget again. I really want to change your perspective on what you said about the average statist voter being, I think you said mentally handicapped, as if it's a deficiency.
No, it's not.
Well, hold on. So it's. I think you can frame this still in a much more accurate and positive way by saying that what we have embraced in contrast as libertarians is an empowerment, and they have yet to claim that particular empowerment, and it's more realistic because it's showing and recognizing the reality of human progress. Do you say that someone who doesn't have access to modern dentistry is, health deficient when they would get a cavity, 1,000 years ago? No, but we have we have come to this level of leveling up. And you can look at the general mental health empowerment and improvement and intelligence and awareness as achieving a perfect standard or as just progress over time. And this is why I would say, libertarians in that sense, we are the only progressives today by the definition of that word. And the other thing is about, running as a libertarian, there's a lot of really great positive news that I think should be great encouragement for libertarians right now to get ready to run for office for the first time in 2022. And to be thinking ahead right now. You're going to see in a bunch of the stories that we're going to get to today, a lot of just things where the conclusion is, and that's why you should run and have fun knowing that you're running in a rigged election and you're going to play the role of someone standing up and pointing out an injustice that needs to be called out. And it's not about win or lose. It's about how effectively can you do that. And there's some great positive things to take out of this for this year, from this year's results already.
Right. So before I hop off the screen here, I'll just finish with this, Adam. I probably lost a few voters calling people retarded. But what I gained out of it is peace within my own self and understanding for my own, at least where I stand politically. And, hey, 10% is not easy to get in a Republican district like mine. It is as red as it gets. I ran only on the premise of, well, there's no choice here. There's no libertarian choice. So I at least want to give that option. And it turns out 1,100 people, 1 in every 10 person that I meet is most likely libertarian minded, wants freedom. The other scary part is 9 out of 10 have a mental deficiency called statism that they have not gotten over yet. So moving forward, like I said, I think I can adopt a message of understanding and meet them where they're at by, like I said, knowing that I am unplugged from the matrix and they are plugged in. It's really sad. It really is. I mean, I can't just talk to somebody and go, I think we should be able to legalize cannabis. And they go, oh, no, that's the devil's lettuce. And there's no understanding. They say I should be thrown in a cage. I say I should be free to put in my body what I want. But their vote represents violence against me. And that's where I have a problem. I mean, there's a lot to it. And I'm sure we'll have many more days to talk about it. But where I stand for 2020 is I want to congratulate every libertarian for doing it. I know it was hard. I'll see you all in Reno where we can figure out the best strategy moving forward and really dive deep into this analysis that Adam wants to go through between now and then. So I just hope you'll hear him out. Other than that, let's produce a good show today.
All right. Thank you, CJ.
I'll say this, if I may. Before you were talking about how Gary Johnson and previous to that was included in like the mainstream coverage, and they're not this time. I'd like to point out, I think it was almost like then they wanted to remind us that we were only getting 2 or 3%, but now they're lying and saying don't cover them at all because they're growing so fast. Yeah. They're actually at 10%, maybe 15. Who knows? We could be at 20% of the country could be throwing their hat in the libertarian ring right now, and they don't want us to know it. You know what I mean?
There's to prove your point, there's an even more undeniable observation I want to point out, which is that when the mainstream media looked at Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, two former Republican two-term governors, they were not fundamentally threatened by that message. Because that message is we're socially liberal, fiscally conservative. We're the best of both worlds. And the average American voter goes, you mean both shit worlds that I don't want anything to do with? Screw that. I'll go with the lesser evil argument, right? And they don't really challenge liberalism or conservatism fundamentally. And to people who haven't heard me say this. This is a talking point worth repeating. Libertarians are not socially liberal and fiscally conservative. We are socially libertarian and we are fiscally libertarian because we come at both of those policy areas from a perspective of libertarian ethical principles. We don't believe in, we don't occasionally line up with liberals on social issues because we got ideas from them. It's because we don't want to use force to force social policies on anybody else. They just happen to make the exception of where they want to apply force in some ways that agrees with us. Similarly, fiscally conservative, the reason it looks like we line up with that sometimes is because our principles sometimes line up with where conservatives don't want to apply force of government directly to control economics. We don't want to do it across the board because libertarian principle says we have to respect the non-aggression principle. We have to respect property rights. And Joe Jorgensen, unlike Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen, unlike Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, represented that message. And that was a threat that had to be suppressed because that is what wakes people up, is understanding those principles behind libertarianism, where we say you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you don't force it on anybody else. And I think there's a natural bias, Jim, again, to underscore your point, in the media to say, you know what, yeah, we're not comfortable with this.
Yeah, it's definitely worth taking note of. Perfectly said, by the way. So let's cover some news. How about that?
No other comments? Nobody trying to point out good news to us today? Come on.
There was one guess on that. There was one guess. The best thing to come out of this election is that we didn't have Gary Johnson on the ticket.
All right, that's a start. If that's the winner of our contest today, I'm going to be very disappointed. Again, you can put it in a comment or call in. I'll be watching. If anybody wants to call in, I've got it in I've got the Producers Club Telegram chat pulled up here. If anybody backstage wants to step up and join me on screen or just have their voice in the production, we'll be taking entries like that as well. But what is the best positive news coming out of this election and why? All right, let's get to some headlines and we're going to start with some of the good news. Like here in Arizona, Jim, recreational cannabis passed. Woo! I'm so glad I did not renew my medical card. Yes.
In that regard, for anybody that lives in Arizona, from what I hear, that means it'll be technically legal in about a month when everything's all official and the counts are all in officially. And
Yes.
And then it'll be available in stores around May.
Yes, we'll do. Oh, and CJ wants to jump on to celebrate South Dakota's landmark vote on the drug war front as well. Yes, is that why you're here, CJ?
Yeah, no, Adam, again, pleasure to be back on when talking about one of my favorite subjects. But again, going back to the whole thing is rigged. In South Dakota, now the government gets to tax, regulate, license, and now become the racketeering crime head boss of the cannabis industry and hemp industry in South Dakota. And the voters just willingly gave it to the government and said, here, you fuck this up. So yeah, no, going back to it's all rigged. Of course they're going to legalize this stuff because at some point they're going to have no other choice to. So they figure, well, might as well let these guys have it. We'll make it squeak by at 47% and keep everybody clicking the refresh rate so we can get that ad revenue and channels. Yeah. So when you really think about it from the not statist perspective and you see it for what it really is, it's easy to celebrate. But then you go, oh, fuck, they're just going to put a 20% tax on my medicine. And what they're going to end up doing is make it so I still got to go to my dealer who's selling it to me from some other place cheaper. So
yes, no, CJ.
I guess I don't know.
CJ, you know, I love hearing libertarians say, "I want cannabis to be as legal as tomatoes," and I go, "Are you crazy? Do you know how illegal tomatoes are? You can't grow them without a government license. You can't sell them without a government license. You can't move them without paying a dozen taxes." I know, like I want cannabis to be actually lawfully legal, right? And I disagree wholeheartedly with your negative framing. I don't dispute your facts, but I come to
You
a
want me to
different
be more positive about
the change is incremental, and historically speaking, we are still at the end of the beginning of the end of the war on drugs.
it's almost like it's the storm before the calm.
Yes, how about that? Thank you for tying it back to our theme today. All right, so okay, one more overview thing. I want just to go back to zerohedge.com because I think they had the best live analysis and coverage. And I deferred to them in terms of calling it state by state as things were unfolding yesterday. And I was watching different mainstream media outlets trying to call different states and disagreeing with each other in some very interesting ways that I'm sure political historians will have fun dissecting this one for quite some time. But here from Tyler Durden, and this is updated as of 8:24 a.m. this morning, Pacific time. Chaos, that's the best way to describe what has happened in the past 12 hours. Initially, Trump shocked pollsters again after winning Florida by a whopping 370,000 votes, where a surge in Hispanic support crippled hopes for a Biden landslide, followed by wins in Ohio and Texas. The early momentum saw Trump's winning odds at online bookie Betfair surge as high as 80%. However, the momentum reversed after Biden managed to flip Arizona back to blue, while the outcome remained unclear in 6 swing states: Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, all of which are still counting votes. And while we may get some final vote counts today, others could take a few days. So again, how they've got us like so, plugged in to the matrix on this one is that we don't know the uncertainty here. And I think they have an interest in drawing this out. Obviously, Trump is the underdog in fighting this right now, has an interest in drawing this out. And the graph you see on screen there, if you're watching the full video production or watching us live right now, thank you to everybody tuning in live again and for your engagement and your comments. Zerohedge.com has it called for Biden ahead with only 238, again needing 270, and Trump at 213. And it was really interesting to see how, the main thing I saw was that a lot of mainstream media outlets were resisting calling Florida until it was undeniable, or Arizona. But anyway, the other big part of this narrative right now is that Trump really does have to sweep things, to win at this point, and it looks still highly unlikely because the majority of mail-in ballots that have yet to be counted are well predicted. But again, who do you believe? Who do you trust as a source on this? But it seems to make sense that the remaining votes to be counted are going to be dominant, are going to be more mail-in, at least the relevant votes that are going to be relevant to the outcome here could push it one way or another. They're going to be mail-in ballots, and mainly because of COVID, Democrats were more scared of COVID, more likely to vote by mail, that you're going to see more of those votes in the several undecided swing states going to Biden. So I don't know. I hope that's enough of the sort of general analysis. So now let's get into some other headlines. Here we have it from KTAR.com. Arizona voters approve Prop 207 to legalize recreational marijuana. So here's my preemptive celebration as a resident of Arizona. Thank you, my fellow crazy Arizonans, with your silly little libertarian streak that somehow managed to still we have a Republican Secretary of State successfully block any libertarian from being on the ballot in 2020. And yet we managed to pass recreational cannabis. It is an interesting world in which libertarianism is suppressed and the state has to concede major chunks of the drug war in order to maintain its overall racket and credibility. And we see this in a number of states, some of these yet to be confirmed, South Dakota, New Jersey. We're going to get to some of those stories today as well. But back to Arizona. Voters passed Prop 207, designed to allow anyone 21 or older to have up to 1 ounce of cannabis. The 16% tax on its sale will fund community colleges, public safety, public health programs, and roads and highways. Without government stealing from people selling cannabis, who would pay for roads, right? The legalization of marijuana in Arizona had been predicted to generate upwards of $300 million annually. And as Jim pointed out, we understand that this is not even going to be official and certified for about a month, but it looks like a pretty decisive victory right now with Prop 207 as KTAR has it, 85.29% of precincts reporting, and Prop 207 legalized marijuana with 59.85% of the vote. And of course, I would remind you that 86.75309% of all statistics are made up bullshit intended to manipulate you, and probably the same percentage of vote reports for 2020 at this point are significantly inaccurate. But I think we can call this one when it is being reported with roughly 60%. But the timing of this rolling out, the high taxes on this, it is not a radical shift, considering that here in Arizona we already have a thriving medical cannabis program. But I do believe that this is sort of barely, but genuinely recreational legal cannabis in Arizona, and it is incremental change, but this is a significant victory as we are now at the end of the beginning of the end of the war on drugs, as Churchill might describe it. And we have some significant victories to celebrate, like in New Jersey, where we go to CBS 3. Philly, New Jersey residents vote to legalize recreational marijuana. New Jersey residents have voted in favor of a constitutional amendment that legalizes cannabis for personal, non-medical use by adults 21 and older. The legalization of recreational marijuana was a ballot question for New Jersey voters. The amendment also allows the state to set up a regulated market for the drug. Even with the approval, it's unclear when shops would open. So, like what we're going to see, in a lot of states where this is playing out right now is the cat being let out of the bag as slowly as possible as different special interests fight for their piece of the pie. You're going to see in states like Arizona, the Prop 207 being supported by the current cannabis industry. There are certainly special interests within that who genuinely want a sort of corporate oligopoly to come out of this. You're going to see different interests within government competing for their piece of the pie in taxes and regulatory power, and even zoning is going to be a big deal with this. And we've seen in following the general course of legalization of cannabis so far, especially in states like Seattle and Colorado, where like our friend, libertarian activist and sometimes candidate Jacob Lamont has had just a nightmare of a time as a legal recreational dispensary owner fighting with the liquor control board. So there are all of these different competing interests still. So when we turn corners it's important to recognize, what we are celebrating and what we are not. And in terms of legalization, individual use, if this results in a major, a decrease in the application of state violence, I'm going to celebrate that, and I'm going to enjoy watching this phase of the war on drugs unfold, because I think we are turning the corner, as I say, at the end of the beginning of the end of the war on drugs. One of the things that I learned, that to my surprise, or just a couple months ago when we did a panel on this for Adam versus the Man, despite the appearance of the drug war de-escalating and government wanting to take a lot of credit for that and make a big deal out of that, nationally, even total drug arrests for possession went up over the last few years that we have data for. It was like 16, 17, 18. And I think the turning point now is happening on two fronts. And one of them is the actual reduction of cannabis arrests nationally. I think at this point, we're starting to turn the corner, or in the process of turning the corner, where what happens when a cop on the street or at a traffic stop or in any other interaction with civilians sees cannabis. And it's a shift from, oh, I'm going to draw the gun and get cuffs on, to, oh, I'm going to have to look at this. And that de-escalation, is just, that's, I think that represents coming from the beginning, or the end of the beginning, to the middle of the end of the war on drugs, the next phase of the end of the war on drugs. And the other thing is the relationship to psychedelics and hard drugs. And, again, the basic libertarian point about all drugs is not, is it good or is it bad? It's, do we want to respond with statism, with violence, with coercion, or do we want to respond with compassionate, nonviolent solutions to whatever problem society faces related to the use of drugs? And it's really tragic that we kind of lump in, hard psychedelics with all hard drugs, because they have a more significant psychological effect than soft drugs like cannabis and alcohol. I mean, the whole hard versus soft of drugs is a propagandistic framing of terminology that was forced on the conversation in order to bolster the propaganda of the drug war, not to accurately describe the effects of any particular drug. Because if they did that, the whole thing would be out the window, right? So, and I've said this about cannabis, that the significant impact of cannabis is not going to be realized until the people who really need it as an attitude adjustment realize its positive benefits and get to smoke it like it's no big deal. And we're not there yet. In Arizona, for example, medical cannabis has made it accessible to the people who already wanted it. But to the people who really fell for the propaganda of the drug war of older generations, even reefer madness, it's going to take a while for the positive society-wide psychological effects of cannabis to fully soak in. And at that point, that will probably get us to the end of the war on drugs. But I want to point out a very important, very dangerous side effect of cannabis, which is that because we have been lied to about it for so long, you cannot smoke pot today and not realize that government is totally full of shit. And that's the best side effect of cannabis there is. And the more, and until it gets to that full social saturation impact of getting a sort of market equilibrium of everybody having, being able to decide how much and what and when to consume based on their own needs, without having to factor in legal liability of, if you do this, people might come and point guns at you and put handcuffs on you and lock you in a cage because they don't approve of your drug use. And we're still a long ways from that. And I think in that sense, we have an incredible opportunity to advance humanity and ending the drug war by promoting positive, conscientious drug use. And this is just general principles across the board of not making decisions. Everybody does drugs one way or another. It's unavoidable. I mean, even unless you're, I don't know. I know you can say, well, I don't do anything, even alcohol. Okay, nicotine, caffeine. So by some interpretations, water is a drug. But the point is that we all use things that we put in our bodies to control our minds, to enjoy life more, to optimize performance, to live better for whatever reason. And any drug can be abused or used in a detrimental way, obviously. And just being able to look at it from that objective perspective and celebrate positive, conscientious drug use. We can say this about, we could say good things and bad things about all drugs. We're not going to turn this into, drugs A to Z with Adam today. But what I want to point out, that another incredible thing we have to celebrate right now is a significant turning point in our relationship to psychedelics, which have had an incredibly positive, profound impact on my life and my understanding of the world and my self-awareness. And I highly recommend that everyone explore the possibility if once you've taken care of, again, more pressing health issues or life issues, if you're in a good place, if you're not facing any other major health threats, if you're not about to get evicted, if you're not in some other crisis, but if you're generally healthy and feeling centered, I would definitely encourage you to explore psychedelics for a lot of reasons. And I'm not going to just turn this into a general promotional video. You're going to have to do a lot of research for yourself. I suggest being well informed and getting your whatever drugs you're doing from a reliable source. And again, not only did the Silk Road and praise be to Ross Ulbricht, may he soon be free, for what he did with the Silk Road, making it possible for people to get safer, more reliable access to drugs for conscientious use, for upping people's access to medicine that the government has made illegal. And in many, psychological analysis, we're talking about medicine. MDMA, ecstasy, is illegal despite being originally explored as a drug used for couples therapy and counseling because it made you more open and empathetic. And now we're seeing it as a cure for PTSD. It's just incredible what we're going to be able to explore now, what is going to be irrefutable in terms of the positive effects of a lot of these formerly completely illegal substances like psilocybin especially. And that gets us to our next headline here. DC voters approve decriminalizing magic mushrooms, other psychedelics. Yeah, coming from DC, not a surprise, right? DC residents have approved a measure that will effectively decriminalize magic mushrooms and other organic psychedelic drugs. The Measure Initiative 81 does not legalize psychedelic plants and fungi. It simply recategorizes them as the lowest level police enforcement priority. Activists weathered the challenges of the pandemic to push the legislation onto the ballot. And that's another thing worth pointing out this year, that as much as the existing powers that be have taken this opportunity to effectively suppress the libertarian message in general, they still could not stop the progress that I see continuing. And I'm not shocked by any of these results, because we've already seen in the referendums that have passed in Denver County, where they decrimmed psilocybin exclusively, minimally, very small, but just, it's like a hole in the dam that the government doesn't have a finger big enough to plug at this point when you have mushrooms at that level of legality. Officially, Denver County did that a couple years ago, and Oakland, the city of Oakland in California, with a similar position. And now, so the research now with magic mushrooms, as the mainstream media still has to refer to them, is something that people are talking about. It's out there, and people want this, especially right now. And I think this is one of the greatest unintended consequences of government pushing the stress and fear and anxiety that everybody's experiencing right now, is that people, with the power of the internet, the truth button at our fingertips, are looking at psychedelics and especially, I think, magic mushrooms in a whole new way right now. But the last big headline to wrap up our positive drug war news from election 2020 comes to us from OregonLive.com. And this, I think this is a beautiful measure of the attitude of compassion that has shifted in Americans' attitudes towards drugs, the drug war in general. And the headline is, Oregon decriminalizes possession of street drugs, becoming first in nation. It gets even better than that sounds. Oregon made history Thursday in the movement to reconsider the nation's war on drugs by becoming the first state to decriminalize small amounts of heroin and other street drugs. Voters overwhelmingly supported Measure 110, a coup for the New York-based Drug Policy Alliance, the same criminal justice reform group that backed Oregon's successful marijuana legalization effort in 2014. Now, again, calling it early, the story says partial returns as of 11 p.m. Tuesday showed the measure winning 59% to 41%. So just like with Arizona in all but complete victory, all but for the crying of the drug war profiteers. So this did not come without a cost. The Drug Policy Alliance poured more than $4 million into this campaign, far outspending the $95,000 raised by opponents. The organization received support from billionaire philanthropist and investor George Soros, who's on the Alliance board. So again, we see disparate interests coming together. This other major funders in the effort included Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg, who along with his wife Priscilla Chan gave $500,000, and the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union of Oregon, which gave $150,000. National ACLU gave another $150,000. The measure also got a boost from singer John Legend, who recently tweeted his support. So this is really an incredible turning point. And for all of these reasons, I think the biggest positive news that we have to celebrate from the 2020 election, as a libertarian, as a compassionate human being, as libertarians being the only true progressive, seeing this progress, is that I do think this represents the turning point from the end of the beginning of the end of the beginning of the end of the war on drugs to the beginning of the middle of the end of the war on drugs. And we are going to see in the next few years a significant de-escalation of the viciousness, the social cost, the pain and suffering of the drug war, and we are going to see a major awakening, both as more Americans are exposed to the enlightening effects of cannabis, psychedelics, and the irrefutable facts that are now undeniably laid out before us. So I know there's a bit of a long rant. I suppose you can all sense my appreciation here. But let's go back to the comments. I don't think we have any callers according to the Producers Club, but we see some fun chats. CJ, if you want to get the graphic that Jim posted up on screen, this is definitely the best one I've seen yet, depicting election results. But if we don't have any callers, let's check in with the comments. Jim, if you want to jump up or just put a few on screen here. Again, the contest today, what's the best positive news to come out of yesterday, and why? And for those getting the audio production, the graphic there was a map of the United States in black and white with red, blue, and yellow crayon scribbled all over it. Here is what we know so far. Thanks for sharing that, Jim. And if you were in the Producers Club, you get to see all of our fun meme sharing as well.
Credit to my mom for that one. Credit to Mama Freedom. She shared it in a group chat of my family's, and I loved it. So I shared it to the Producers Club. And my favorite thing about it is at least they counted some gold in there. You know, at least there was some gold crayon. That was good to see. Gold crayon. So Silenced Maj has a guess. The best news is we aren't letting the LP momentum go away. We are not breaking down our infrastructure.
Absolutely. Like I said before, and you're in the lead now. Who was that? Who made the comment?
That was Silenced Maj. I believe that was Brad that you did the stream with.
Oh, excellent. So Brad, congratulations. For now, you're in the lead. But we could change that at any time if there's a better entry. But no, I think that's what you're pointing out there really is in line with what I said earlier about I remain absolutely confident in the momentum of the party and the movement, and just to see that they can suppress the message, they can suppress the votes, but the energy and the commitment and the general positive momentum of the libertarian movement is undeniable. And that's, yes, that might be that's even better than the news that I just shared about the drug war.
Okay, Casey Kane weighs in on Facebook, says best thing is more people will see the hypocrisy from the obvious fraud of the state.
Yeah. More people will see the hypocrisy from the obvious fraud of the state.
Actually, she changed her answer, or this person, they say, actually, the best thing is the amount of people not voting should make the whole thing illegitimate. Non-voters are the majority, right?
I don't think so this year. Now, actually, it's the voter turnout for presidential elections. And, again, if someone wants to share some of these statistics, whatever, please look them up, share them in comments. Jim will bring them up. And, I'm not trying to give you, we rely on our audience and our Producers Club, especially to make sure that our coverage is complete. But the typical voter turnout of registered voters is about 60%. And I think if anything, it was up a little. They said it was a record turnout this year. And I've done the math before, but I forget exactly, when you, again, that's of eligible voters. about 60%. And that's crazy in and of itself, right? And there are a lot of implications that we could dissect and pull out of that if you really wanted to. And if you want to ask questions and indulge my poli sci nerdy side, we can go that way. But I'll spare you for now. With that being said, if you subtract felons and people who are underage, I think that number comes to less than 50% of the general population. And that should get you to say, yeah, this isn't a mandate. This isn't enough for you to even say that you have the majority on your side. Your excuse to force your will on us is, even the way you compose this charade, illegitimate. But no, I still think the best answer is the momentum of the movement.
Yeah.
For goodness.
Empty Matter says, next time I go to Kingman, I will have a joint going through the border. Then again, I didn't need a law for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Steven on Facebook says, this is all nice, but my probation officer doesn't want to hear this. I tried to argue. I try to be healthy and use cannabis to the court, but nobody cares.
Yeah, again, I hope I'm not overestimating my celebration of what this election cycle means for the drug war and the government racket as a whole. Like I said, we didn't see like a breakthrough year of like a sudden leap in drug legalization, but we did see a continuation of the incremental change that I think now gets us to a critical tipping point where the momentum is actually going to accelerate. And that's what the middle of the end of the war on drugs is going to be, in terms of the next major policy shift to nationwide. Like I wouldn't be surprised if 2022, so by 2022 we saw a federal decriminalization of cannabis, and just a major reduction in the individual cost by the victims of the drug war.
Yeah, well, Case Copeland on Facebook brings up a good point. Might come to a halt if Sloppy Joe gets into office. Now, obviously, I don't think that Sloppy Joe's going to be able to change Arizona's recreational marijuana law or do anything like that, but he is notably anti-drug. He's Mr. Drug War, as far as I understand. He loves all those laws and everything. Is there a chance that's what confuses me too, is because I don't know if you've heard, but supposedly, according to the numbers that they're bullshitting us with, Arizona went Biden. So Arizona voted for Biden and voted to legalize recreational marijuana, which is something Biden would never approve or go for. You see
Biden has successfully convinced, I think, most voters that he takes the general Democrat line of being softer on drugs than Republicans. So I hate to, those words sound gross coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, right? But you know what I'm referring to, right? That people weren't voting. That is not a contradict. What you pointed out about Arizona going to Biden by 6 points and passing cannabis. Well, here's an important thing about and passing cannabis with 60% is that, we could do the breakdown and look at like how many Republicans and Democrats voted for cannabis legalization here, but it obviously needed some Republicans to vote for it in order to pass, or a significant number of independents. And I don't think Biden is going to buck the general trend again of incremental policy progress in terms of the drug war, because it's got an undeniable social momentum. And I don't mean, and I don't think he's going to let it progress. He's going to toe the government sponsor corporate line on this one, which is just let us make as much money from this racket as we can. And you're going to see it transform in different ways. Like when cannabis is decriminalized and police forces need to, the local level justify their budgets, some of them radically increase their, enforcement of with other drugs. But I don't think Biden is going to be, especially effective in this. I'm not afraid of, oh my gosh, he's the guy who had his name on all the crime reform bills, and he's got Kamala as his running mate as the top cop. Like, are they going to, radically escalate the war on drugs? Or nah, I don't think so. I don't think, mainly because of my take on the overall sentiment of the United States electorate, but also when you see the possibility that the U.S. House, or Congress as a whole, House and then Senate, may in the next couple of years pass some measure of federal decriminalization of cannabis, I don't think Joe Biden's going to veto it. I don't see that as a possibility. I mean, I get it's a possibility, but I see that as highly unlikely. Does that make sense?
It makes sense as an opinion of yours, sure, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying this is like some ironclad prediction. But all right, let's get back to some headlines, because I do have some fun things that I do want to say, like, yeah, called it. But first, thesun.com has this: Fight House cops clash with BLM and Antifa protesters in ugly scenes outside White House as they vow to stay for weeks. About 1,000 protesters, not hugely significant. And generally, it's worth pointing out that the election was carried out peacefully. That there were instances of limited violence, but as of yet, like, we're not seeing civil war or malicious scale deployment or anything like that. But we do see this, and this is worth pointing out from the Daily Mail. Troops roll into the battlegrounds. National Guard arrive in Philadelphia and Chicago as Illinois governor asks residents to be patient with election results that could take days. So Illinois Governor Pritzker has mobilized the National Guard in Chicago to be on standby for any unrest. He urged residents to be patient with the election result, which may not come until Thursday. In Philly, armed troops manned a target on Monday night and are also settling in for the next few days. The city has seen uproar for more than a week since the police shooting of Walter Walls Jr. Texas has also planned to mobilize the National Guard in cities if there is unrest and businesses are boarding up their windows in anticipation of violence. But the general story that we're seeing is, no, it was not, we didn't see any anomalies in huge surges of violence or protests. And it's worth pointing this out, if only to discredit everybody who tried to promote that kind of fear-mongering perspective. Fun little note that we got in a story from our Producers Club with the comment, only in 2020, from Daily News, nydailynews.com, hand sanitizer jams Iowa ballot scanner. Really? Yeah. Polling place in Des Moines, Iowa was disrupted Tuesday after hand sanitizer jammed one of the ballot scanners. Kevin Hall, spokesperson for the Iowa Secretary of State, said voters who applied hand sanitizer caused excess moisture to get into the machine and put it out of commission for about an hour. when are we gonna give up this silly shit? The again, it's just got to be another. I mean, will we ever learn? To make a grotesque reference, I shared this with someone I've been texting with for fans of South Park. If you remember the human centipede episode, why won't it read? You know, it's like the system is just shitting in our mouths constantly with lies and bullshit propaganda, and we don't stop. Like, when will it learn to read? When will the American people learn to read between the lines of the bullshit that is being fed to us by the duopoly and the mainstream media? So anyway, some good news to celebrate here from AlJazeera.com, or another just fun result to look at from referenda. Uber, Lyft win California's most expensive ballot measure ever. Californians overwhelmingly voted in favor of Prop 22, exempting app-based ride-hailing and delivery service from classifying drivers as employees eligible for benefits and job protections. And I know you could do, an in-depth analysis of this from a libertarian perspective and see, what's bad and what's good. Does this overall represent more or less economic freedom? I think it does. But in terms of the bigger positive note to take out of this, I think there's, I kind of reference back to Gary Johnson's messaging of Uber everything. Not that I would ever use that, but when I used to fly on a regular basis and use ride sharing out of airports, you could see exactly how governments are screwing up the potential of just ride sharing apps of Uber and Lyft, for example. And I think there is a positive growing awareness globally that the potential with apps like this is not being realized because of government intervention, government regulation, if only because maybe not, these aggravating airport experiences where cabs come right up to the curb, but if you want to get a ride-sharing app, you got to walk halfway to Timbuktu and, up an escalator and down an elevator to this remote corner of the parking garage, and that's where you can catch an Uber or a Lyft. But there are certain localities that have just banned them, or places around the world, different countries even. You can see the contrast, and you go, well, what quality? Enough people travel, and word gets around. Like in Oregon and New Jersey, they still don't let you pump your own gas. How they kept that racket going, I don't know. But that sort of growing awareness of, hey, this is why we can't have nice things because of government, because of this regulatory intervention. Really? I think there's a major positive awareness happening around these apps. Now, one of the things I predicted about the 2020 election is that Kanye might come out as Trump's ace in the hole. And if Biden loses, Kanye West is going to be the most hated man in America. But it's not because of him alone. There were definitely a lot of manipulators around him in this race, just making sure they got on the ballot in enough key battleground states. But as I said, there would have to be some other mechanism of manipulation. And of course, one thing very suspicious in all of this is that Joe Rogan, #1 podcast in America still, I believe, is he said he was going to suspend production for COVID, but then went ahead with the interview of Kanye West. And if you combine that with some direct outreach, like lying emails that tell Democrat voters in swing states, don't worry, Biden's got this in the bag, cast a protest vote for Kanye, that could be enough to swing it. So if they were going to get away with that, it would have to be very much last minute. And as I predicted, you wouldn't see it until the day after. And I know this story is developing, and that whole theory about Kanye has yet to be proven to be of any certain significance. Time will tell. We'll see again as this election continues to be picked apart over the next, well, probably for the rest of our lives. No, we're not that gullible. But for at least the next few weeks, there's going to be significant greater insight into what manipulation happened. And because of the state of play of things, with it's still technically being uncalled, and Trump, by most mainstream accounts, having at least a narrow fighting chance, it's going to be very interesting. But we see this other headline now from Al Jazeera about this. FBI probes robocalls urging voters to stay home on Election Day. Senior U.S. officials at the Department of Homeland Security says FBI is investigating calls seeking to discourage people from voting. People across the United States received anonymous robocalls in the days and weeks before Election Day, urging them to stay safe and stay home, and what experts said could be an attempt to scare voters into sitting out the hotly contested polls. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is investigating calls that seek to discourage people from voting. A senior official of the Department of Homeland Security told reporters on Tuesday authorities would not offer details. U.S. state and local officials have been raising alarm over at least two separate automated call campaigns as millions of people cast their votes on Tuesday to decide between President Donald Trump and challenger Joe Biden. Of course, another great example of the mainstream media, even though this is Al Jazeera, right, leaving out Joe Jorgensen, but the libertarian challenger. But first I got to point out, when we talk about the Republicans and Democrats, the duopoly, the current power structure within politics, we're talking about people who are willing to support policies that they know are going to kill innocent people to enrich themselves, to promote their brands, to promote their own power. You think they're not going to cheat in an election? Even among those who are well-intentioned, who think that they know better than you and that their policies should be forced on you through government. You think they're not going to manipulate the votes? So I think this is while I have my theory about Kanye in particular that has yet to play out, and someone might do an analysis, of this and prove that it was insignificant. Who knows? But I can guarantee you that you're going to see more stories like this. I think this is a very, very safe prediction that over the next few weeks. And I think as a libertarian, I see this as a very positive force for waking people up. That is, as Americans are going to watch a propaganda war play out over the next few weeks, in various attacks of desperation, Republicans and Democrats are going to call each other out for various manipulations, real and imagined. Yeah. Got to remember this. So there can be some lies to sort through, and people lying about the liars lying about the other liars, and and again, they're all on the same team of statism. This is all engineered to keep us trapped in the current system, in the duopoly, to keep us sucked in. And I think what's happening now is positive in terms of awakening, because there's a backfiring effect. They have a very short-sighted set of incentives, the political operatives of the red-flavored statism team and the blue-flavored statism team. But the long-term effect of this is going to be to discredit the system altogether, because now they're in a very fierce competition around the presidency in attempting to discredit the opposing faction. And while the immediate effect is to pull attention away from the libertarians, the overall impact in terms of the destabilization of this factionalism within the duopoly is just, it's a really beautiful thing that is going to promote people becoming aware of what a racket this current system is as a whole. So next we have, all right, did we get through? We didn't, okay, wait, I think we got through all of the election coverage. No, we have a few, I mean, I guess this qualifies, we're skipping ahead just to make sure we get as much of this out of the way today as we can. New York Post has this story: Proud Boys leader, one of four, stabbed after he was jumped by BLM and DC. BLM in DC. The leader of the far right, and I don't think they're far right. They're distinctly right, libertarian leaning more than far right. But then that opens up a whole other conversation about definitions that we're not going to rehash right now. The leader of the far right Proud Boys has said he was one of four people stabbed after being jumped by Black Lives Matter early Wednesday in Washington, D.C. Enrique Tarrio, who we've been trying to get on this program, told the Gateway Pundit, maybe he'll have some more time now post-election, but not if he's in the hospital. Enrique Tarrio told the Gateway Pundit that he was slashed in the stomach, while multiple other members were injured, including a man stabbed in the neck and a woman with them stabbed in the back. The group said they were heading home after watching the election at a bar when they were jumped and knifed. I don't think this story is indicative of anything more than, a crazy lone knife man, and indicative of the sad state of polarization and political street violence in America. But it is worth noting that people like Enrique Tarrio taking bold stands and being out in public, face this new risk now, and it is, for all the positive things that we have to celebrate today. It is worth pointing out that the general political conversation in America, and I hope this, I'm very confident predicting that this is largely going to dissipate now. Well, maybe not now, but certainly after the election is decided one way or another, hoping that and expecting that it'll be resolved peacefully here. Who knows how it's going to play out, but worth noting that this happened to Enrique Tarrio as they were walking home from watching the election last night. Let's see, what other critical election coverage do we have here? Oh yeah, this is a really fun one from Daily Mail. Excuse me, CJ, skipping ahead a couple again here. Google searches for liquor stores near me hit all-time high as Americans watch election results come in. Google Trends posted their findings on Twitter. During election night, they said searches for alcohol and fries near me hit their highest recorded toll. Google Trends reported most searches for a midnight triple originated in Delaware, followed by Maryland, Tennessee, and Georgia. Oh, midnight tipple, excuse me. I was like, what's a midnight triple? Just misread that. But yeah, let's see. Oh, again, I did say today we're going to have some positive news in terms of encouraging people to run for office as libertarians. And I know this is not the huge libertarian electoral victory you might have hoped to come out of last night, but this headline from The Hour, from the Washington Post via thehour.com, North Carolina Republican Madison Cawthorn, 25, will be the youngest member of Congress. And just want to remind any potential libertarian candidates who would want to join me in the class of 22 libertarian congressional candidate slate of libertarians. You only have to be 25 as of January 20th or 21st, depending on where the Monday falls, of 2023 in order to be eligible to run for Congress, because the election is November 2022. you get sworn in, or maybe it's a slightly different day for Congress. Again, you got to do the research on your race. You got to know your race. But even running a minimalist or a paper campaign as a libertarian is a positive, worthwhile, important endeavor and opportunity not to be missed. So if you can, you have to be 25 by basically that date in January that Congress gets sworn in, 2023. If you're qualified, please consider it. If not, think of a race that would be fun for you to volunteer for or to manage and organize, or whatever it is that it's time now to be thinking ahead as a libertarian to the 2022 election cycle, and to look in if locally perhaps you have something on an annual or odd year basis as well. But look ahead now. Don't be caught unawares missing some deadline. Do the planning, do the research now for what you're going to do to be involved and take advantage of government's free platform to amplify our message through the political process in 2022. So another fun story we have from theweek.com, a North Dakota candidate who died of COVID-19 seemingly just won his election. And it's not just, this is a fun little quirk. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's all it is, but I hope that people just see how ridiculous our system is. David Ondal, a North Dakota Trump Republican running for a state legislature, appeared to win his election on Tuesday night. There was only one problem. Ondal died due to complications from COVID-19 back in October. Fox 9 reports, though he was still listed on the ballot, the Republican Party will appoint his replacement now that he's evidently won. According to North Dakota Attorney General Wayne Stenahem, if a deceased candidate receives the majority of the votes, the candidate is elected. However, if the prevailing candidate has died, the candidate is no longer qualified, and a vacancy will exist. State law provides the process to fill vacancies of a legislative office. I hate to be giggling talking about this guy who died, recognizing the loss of life, but the language used here is just irrefutably hilarious. However, if the prevailing candidate has died, the candidate is no longer qualified. I know this is hard to believe, but according to government, if you're dead, you're not qualified to hold public office. You are qualified to vote, however, in a lot of jurisdictions. Next headline from our election roundup, thehill.com, too close to call, polling at all levels takes a beating. And yeah, one of the irrefutable narratives of the election already is that the pollsters had it wrong in calling it too confidently for Biden. Anyways, first paragraph of the story. Not only has President Trump trailed Joe Biden in the national polls for 2 years, he has lagged in most swing states and has been behind in practically every issue, whether job approval, personal favorability, character of the issues. Trump has terrible numbers only in his handling of the economy, strong leadership, and whether he will win has Trump done well by any metric. Trump should not have stood a chance, yet it is clear that the polls systemically underestimated Trump's strength. The final Electoral College tally, according to the final 538 averages, would have been 348 to 190. There's no chance Biden gets to that number. Polls in Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio were off by up to 10 percentage points. Among the greatest hits or misses were Quinnipiac, which was off by 12 points in Ohio and 8.5 points in Florida. Morning Consult was off by 10 points in Ohio and 10.5 in Florida. And this is crazy I'm going to wait. We're going to come back to this and pick this apart when we see the final results. We have some, at least, more accurate fantasy government numbers here. Amero Fantasyland, like should land. Sorry, that's a kind of esoteric American Dad reference. But for all the attempts to make sure there wasn't a repeat of 2016, we see in this biggest of ways a pretty significant repeat of 2016 today. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more to this. So we're going to wrap up, just skim through a couple more election headlines, and then CJ, we'll just do some comments on screen and sign off. But again, we're going to limit ourselves. We're going to stay on time today and not get sucked in to the emotional nature of this whole scam as much as, I don't know, let's say James Carville. This headline from Real Clear Politics: Carville, Michigan, a red mirage, put the razor blades and Ambien back in the medicine cabinet. And you know, like what this is a clever way of him to say, don't commit suicide, right? Democratic operative James Carville, who predicted a blowout by 10 p.m. Wrong again. Attempted to reassure Democratic voters by telling them to put the razor blades and the Ambien away in an appearance on MSNBC at midnight. The first thing is every Democrat just put the razor blades and the Ambien back in the medicine cabinet. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Carville reassured Democrats. And it's funny. It's clever. Yeah, you can joke about suicide. I'm not trying to say that, you know, anything is beyond the realm of attempting to make a joke about. And in that sense, it's not bad. All right, Carville, you're clever. But you're also pretty revealing in this. And I think that's even more hilarious, that the reason you would tell a joke about suicide is because even if you don't take suicide as a serious issue and you have like a genuine positive motivation for telling people not to commit suicide, which we do regularly on this show, mental health awareness, suicide prevention is a significant part of our message and what we try to get out there with Adam versus the Man, you know, mental health, positivity, all of these things. But if you really think, James, that if you think that there are Democrats who might commit suicide because they see that there were people that Trump declared victory, that some people are calling this for Trump. What a sad state of affairs that you, Mr. Carville, have played into this emotional slavery, this Stockholm syndrome that we find ourselves in America, where that's a real thing. That we have that much unhealthy emotional attachment to politics. And you haven't done anything to fight this, and you feed into it. And even if that's not the case, if this is all just a joke to you, if you don't think there's any significant suicide threat there, Mr. Carville, then you're joking about suicide is really sick and inappropriate. But either way, it makes it undeniable that you believe that Democrats, Biden voters, supporters, and I say this is just as much true, if not more so, just on different psychological planes, dynamics, emotional perspectives with Republicans, but that there is a horrifically unhealthy emotional attachment to politics in America. And if you're going to joke about it and joke about suicide, yeah, you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. So I hope that that's part of the awakening that we experience of 2020. We go, never going to let them suck me in like that again. I hope we can say that as America. I know that everybody watching this program, everybody listening to me right now is already on that page. And I hope that those of you who see your friends and neighbors perhaps suffering from an unhealthy emotional attachment to politics can use this message to connect with others, and again, in part of the value, the immediate value that you get by embracing the love of libertarianism is a relief from that unhealthy emotional attachment. I hope you recognize the importance and the value in sharing that, and especially now the opportunity, now that we are no longer inundated with messages about vote, 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 vote. We are going to be inundated, unfortunately, with messages about my guy won, my guy won, my guy was better, all that kind of nonsense for quite a while. But spreading this self-awareness and emotional awareness, instead of making awkward jokes about suicide on TV like James Carville. Yeah, there's a good opportunity here. All right, on that positive note, let's wrap things up. CJ, Jim, if you want to just put some comments on screen, if there, we'll just see, do we have any others? We are at time. So just before we sign off, let's make sure that we wrap up our contest responsibly and do our promos. So I'll remind you, for last second entries, the contest today is, what is the most positive news that you see coming out of the election and why? And basically our current leader is, and I apologize, I forget the name of the commenter there, but Jim has it. The comment was that the confirmation of the positive momentum of the libertarian movement. And yes, that's got the lead right now. So promos, getting the promos out of the way again. Let's do promos and we'll give people a chance, and we'll do all the last comments. So cigarfederation.com, please go to cigarfederation.com, promo code ADAM10, all caps, gets you 10% off. That's ADAM10, all capital letters, 10% off. Check out the JSK Nugs, CBD infused cigars, really cool deal on those there. And join us for Cigars and Sunsets now every Friday here in Gardenia. Check out makethemdebate.com. We forgot that one earlier. Fun way to engage, make some debates happen. We had a great time with the first one. I want to see another one happen. Reach out, Adam at thefreedomline.com if you want to help with that, or if you want to come visit us here in Gardenia, or you want to get you want to talk to me about anything, you want your email read on the air, let me know. Adam at thefreedomline.com. And of course, adamversustheman.com is where you can get our merchandise, see our incredible selection that producer CJ has put together, as well as figure out, if you don't win the contest today, how to buy your way into the Producers Club for just $10 a month. So check all that out, and everything else that CJ has got in our wonderful new website there at adamversustheman.com. All right, last part of the show today. I know you guys see how I'm not just enthralled, getting into all of this, watching the snake eat its own tail, and my sort of morbid curiosity, indulgence, combined with my weird background in politics. I could go for another several hours just about this, but I think we've done an adequate job. So let's get to our contest entries and wrap this up. Stephen Ziskiewicz weighs in. It's also your fault if Biden gets in. Yeah, oh yeah, of course, the libertarians' fault. No matter what happens, we can blame the libertarians. Casey Kane, the mentally handicapped will still gargle that boot. Okay, what is this? This is CJ's fan club weighing in today. Actually, the best thing is the amount of people not voting should make the whole thing illegitimate. Non-voters are the majority, right? Yes, technically, I think we've covered that today, but still, not better news. I don't see anybody taking the lead, CJ, and any other, let's see, Stephen. But Adam, the problem is definitely now the state taking control of the market, just like California, where 80% of the market is a Joe underground. All right, still don't see a contest winner over our leader right now, with the good news being the momentum of the libertarian movement. But let's see, low key 209. The best thing to come out of 2020 is curbside marijuana. Thanks, COVID. Yeah, well, out of that, yeah, not an election result, but yeah, definitely another silver lining of the coronaphobia cloud. Low key 209, open your mind. All right. CJ, if there's nothing else. All right, we'll see. And watch out for Stephen, and watch out for the state-controlled monopoly and taxes on cannabis, going to AA meetings to avoid jail for MDMA, fines, drug courts, treatment centers. Yes, I know. You want to be pessimistic, but I still think even though the progress is merely incremental at this point, not revolutionary or exponential, it is still major incremental progress to be celebrated and to take great confidence and faith in. And so that's why the winner of today's contest is our friend, was it Sean or Brad, who was with us earlier, who said that the positive momentum of the freedom movement is confirmed. So with that, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.